Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling. Should we see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhollow today? Where I hope you like the temporary thumbnail art I put on for yesterday's video. Honestly, this video might also have a temporary thumbnail art. I genuinely don't know. Because I am... Honestly, I'm just being a little bit lazy at finishing off this thumbnail art. It's the sort of thing, you know, where like a deadline's part... Well, I mean, to be fair, it wasn't actually like a genuine deadline. Like, it's not like anything which really sort of like hinges on a fact. I finished this thumbnail art for yesterday's video, but I'm going to be honest, I've been a bit lazy doing this thumbnail art. I mean, normally it's okay, because normally I start it like weeks in advance, but, you know, doing it in 5 days and then just being like, now the deadline's passed, I'm sort of just like, yeah, I can take my time with it, but I will still try and finish it off, or either today or tomorrow, I don't know, we'll see, because if I don't finish off for today, I'm basically not going to have any time. Well, not no time, but I'm not going to have much time next week to really do it, so we'll see how it goes. Anyway, hello everyone, right now in Fawnhollow, it's 1:37 PM on Sunday, March 26th, 2023. Today's also Fawna's birthday, how wonderful, happy birthday. So yeah, I mean, it's still year 4, nothing's really changed, nothing's really like started or anything like that. You might be like, where are you on the thumbnail art front? I've almost finished the line art. I was super lazy yesterday, I'm going to be honest, I'm being a bit lazy today as well, but I need to record some episodes anyway, because I don't have an episode going up tomorrow. And I think I mentioned it in previous episodes. It's not going to be Beacon Pines. The next series is intended to be Beacon Pines. I've not even started from that art, so I'm not uploading that, because at least I have control over that. You know, it's not expected that it's going to be daily. So I'm going to be doing Spiritfarer temporarily. I'm going to be revisiting that and doing the content updates, which I haven't done. And there's a decent amount of content updates, I believe. I think there's been 4 characters released in Spiritfarer since I've last, you know, played it. I don't know if that's true exactly, but I think that's about right, so I don't know. Hopefully that'll be a bit of fun. It's been ages since I played Spiritfarer, so we'll have to see how it goes, and hopefully I have enough materials and stuff for most of it. I don't know. I don't know if I really did a lot of farming towards the end of Spiritfarer, the Spiritfarer playthrough, but I also don't remember, because that was a very early on playthrough. Anyway, so what should we talk about today? What should we talk about holiday-wise? I mean, we could talk about cable cars, but I didn't really talk about cable cars all that much, I'm going to be perfectly honest. I was just sort of scrolling until I find something which I'm like, yeah, I want to talk about this. Like, I mean, I could talk about castles, but it's not really much for me to say about castles. I guess it's kind of cool. I'm just looking for something which I'm like, yes, this will make a good prompt for a conversation. I'd be like, yeah, this is exactly what I want to talk about. Oh, actually, you know, this is a very specific thing. But basically, when we were in Barcelona, I think. So we're still in Barcelona, you know, we're still very early on in the holiday talks, but we went, I think we actually saw it while we were on the cable car initially. There was like a playground beneath us, like a playground with like climbing frames and like these like gym workout, I'm not sure toys is really the right thing, but playground furniture. Well, I don't know what you call them necessarily. But it's one of those playgrounds. It's not like, you know, it wasn't like when McDonald's Happy Meal, McDonald's playground. It was like a wooden climbing frame sort of playground area. But there was this one piece of equipment or toy. Toy sounds a bit misleading, I suppose, in a playground, which I still don't really understand what it is properly. But it was there, and it was literally, I think, the only time I've ever seen it. And we didn't see it again during a holiday. But the only thing I can describe it is it basically kind of looks like a stepping exercise machine, except for instead of being like a treadmill or being like a swinging thing, it's like you're a puppet. Is how I describe it. Like, basically, it was a raised platform. And the raised platform had like this sort of triangular chute on it, going from the higher platform to the lower platform, a very small one. And then the raised platform had like a square frame hanging on it, and then on the top, like crossbar of a square frame, there was like a sliding thing, like a zip line sort of slidey thing. But instead of having like a zip line hanging down or like a seat hanging down, it was 2 chains with like these curved foot saddles at the bottom, and they were linked together so that if when one goes up, the other one goes down. You know, and we looked at it and we were basically like, what the heck is this? And I don't remember, maybe I suggested it or maybe one of my friends suggested it, being like, I was like, I think how you're meant to use this is you're meant to put both your feet in here and you sort of just like walk or something on it. long story short, that was like nearly impossible to do. I genuinely no idea how you meant to do it. Like we all gave it a shot. It was impossible to balance on, and it was impossible to really move on. So it was basically the biggest question mark I'd ever had while interacting with playground equipment. Like I feel like, you know, back in my day, the playground equipment I had was all very basic. I'm trying to think about the playground I had back in my childhood. It had this like big climbing frame. It had like a rickety bridge in the middle. It had like bark chippings or something on the floor to make sure that kids don't grievously injure themselves if they fall. It had some other things as well. It had like the springy horse thing. I don't know genuinely what they're called, to be honest. Excuse me, but that thing. They had it had a slide. It had swings. You know, both the regular swings and the toddler baby swings, the cage swings. I don't know what they're called. Maybe like harness seat swings would probably be a bit more befitting a name. I genuinely don't remember what other sort of things it had, to be honest. But that's what I remember it having off the top of my head. And even like back in school, we had playgrounds with similar things. We didn't have swings, actually, now I think about it, back in school, which it was kind of lame. I remember like one of my childhood homes, we had like a mini playground area. It was a place where we had a huge garden. It was a fantastic garden. We had like the base garden area, and we had like steps up to like allotment style stone things, and then like one of the things we had like a mini park playground, quote quote, with bark chippings on the floor, and then like a mini slide, like mini elephant sort of slide, and we had a swing set. Swing set was a lot of fun, you know, and I didn't really appreciate it as much when I was younger, but you know, having a swing, you know, get your child a swing set, why not? Simple fun, hours of fun is what I'd say. But there's nothing more fun just than like idly, because it's a thing where you can do actively, you know, you can swing as high as you can, or you can just sort of like chill on it and like relaxedly swing. It's a very automatic thing once you learn to do it, I think. So I suppose if you're going to buy any sort of playground equipment for your child, buy a swing is my recommendation. I don't actually know if that's good or sound advice necessarily, but swings are just kind of fun. So anyway, this is like the opposite of a swing, because instead of being simple and easy to learn, this was an absolute nightmare. I don't even know. I still don't really understand what you're meant to do on it, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, the only thing I could basically describe it as is a puppet shoestring frame. That's what I describe as playground instrument as. It's so bizarre because I don't understand how you're meant to play on it. Like I had a few ideas after we all tried to do things. We put our feet in it and we tried to like walk on it and that sort of thing. It's as I say, it's like highly impossible to balance because of course the point of like where the chains are hanging from it cannot be above you unless you are a very small child, in which case maybe, you know, therein lies the issue. But it's basically sort of like at your neck height or whatever, but it has to be directly in front of you or directly behind you. And if you've ever tried to balance on something like that, I don't know if you've I guess it's not a very common situation now. I'm trying to think of it, but like if you've ever tried to balance on or like stand on things where the pivot point is in front of you, obviously the things hanging down want to sort of naturally be underneath the pivot point, but your entire body weight is like off center from it, so you're just going to continuously fall over in the wrong direction for it, which is very difficult to interact with, shall we say. And then doubling on the fact that the two things you're standing on, they move up and down. So you know, you like shift your weight a little bit and then it like is awkward. Like you can't like really force it down because you have to like take your weight completely off the other foot, but that's difficult to do because you can't even balance on it properly. And then at the same time, it's on like a zip line sort of crossbar where it can move like left and right as well. So it's like how do you even move left and right with that? Like my assumption was you walk in it and then you do like a sort of marching motion and it sort of like pedals you to one side and it pedals you to the other side if you do a marching motion in reverse. That doesn't make sense now I think about it, but whatever. But yeah, it was just highly impossible. I mean, if you know what I'm talking about, please tell me, 1, what it's called, and 2, how you're meant to even play on that sort of thing. But and the thing that is most bizarre about it is the fact that, again, I mentioned at the beginning, it has like this trough funnel thing, this triangular trough from the higher platform down to the lower platform, which I was like, I don't know what this is for, but I assume this is where you're meant to like slide your foot into the saddle or something. And that's how you're meant to use it, and that's how you're actually meant to like mount this playground equipment. Anyway, it was insanely difficult, but I had to think about it afterwards. I was like, maybe you're not meant to walk on that. Like, the only other thing I could think of that you could use to play with it is that maybe it's like a sand pit sort of play thing, because it was on a sand pit, but the entire playground was kind of like on a sand pit, so that's a bit hard to say, but it's basically like maybe this trough is like some kids play on like the upper level of like the platform, which is meant to normally be full of sand, but it wasn't this time, and then like you can like use this as like a lift to lift up sand up to the higher like floors or to the lower floors. But then I was just like, why would you not put buckets at the bottom instead of these weird like foot, like it basically had these Pringle shapes at the bottom where your foot perfectly slides into. But I guess if you didn't want to bucket it so the sand could slide in and out, so basically that's all I can think about, is that the foot saddles are meant to be sort of like shovels. You shovel up sand from the bottom, and then you like send it upwards on the little lift. And then if you want to send it down again, you can use a trough to get the sand down. That's my guess, but it doesn't seem very necessary. Because when I say raised platform, it wasn't a very high raised platform. It was about like 10 centimeters off the ground. And it's like, it wasn't really a sand pit either. It was more like sand padding to make sure that it doesn't hurt so much, I suppose, if you fall. But I don't know. Is that what it's for? Let's try and Google it. Sand. I don't even know what to Google. Playground equipment, sand, hanging chains. I don't even know how to remotely describe this, because that could be what it is. But again, I can't help but think if you wanted that, you would just have a bucket and a chain. And then just have it like, you can still have that counterweight system, but I don't know. Because I feel like there were other like workout playground equipments nearby. So we were just like, well, at least I was like, this has to be a workout equipment. So I genuinely I don't know. If I could just even find a picture of it, that'd be fantastic. Like, yeah, like I'm looking at these playground equipment. A lot of these are sort of like low ropes sort of things, which we had back in our primary school as well, actually. That's like what I had in mind, but it's just like, how is this usable? Like, how do you play on this? I don't know. Playground equipment, foot chains. Let's just put foot chains for now. We'll see what comes up. Foot. I mean, it could have been a swing, maybe. It doesn't really make sense, because I don't know why you would balance a swing like that instead of just, having a normally built swing. If you want, like, why would you have a swing and encourage kids to stand on it? No, there's no way it could be a swing, because the chain was actually longer. You would hit the raised platform every time you did it. I'll show you a picture, but obviously I don't want to show pictures from real life of that sort of thing. So maybe I should illustrate it. But I'm just gonna hit my verbal directions. Make sense? I don't even know what to call it. Playground equipment foot stepper? No, it's like footstools. Or it's like exercise equipment. Playground equipment. Foot lift. Maybe something like that? Maybe I get rid of the equipment part. Playground foot lift. No. Wait, did we get things? Minestrone soup. I don't know, but this is just an infographic about how to work out on a playground. Is this it? No, that's not it. Okay. But this is again what I was thinking of. This is like a low rope sort of equipment thing. Of like hanging ropes with like squares at the bottom where you sort of need to like walk across the entire thing. Okay, so sell things, talk to people, change outfit. Okay. Can do. I genuinely don't even know how to describe it. I hope you understood what I'm saying. Basically, imagine a raised platform, about 10 centimeters off the ground. And on the raised platform, there is a frame, a square frame, a wooden frame going vertically upwards. Now, that top crossbar, there is a giant block of wood, which can slide left and right along the crossbar. And from that, like, pivot point, that slidey thing on that crossbar, there are two chains, just, like, hanging over it, essentially. And one side goes to, like, a Pringle shape, and the other side also goes to a Pringle shape. And they're connected together, and it has freedom to, like, pivot itself around the point. It's so bizarre. I still don't really understand it, I'm going to be perfectly honest. I think I've been outsmarted by playground equipment, which is you know, it's not the greatest feeling in the world, but so be it. Sorry about that, quite a long pause there, but I did actually spend some time looking up more about that playground thing, like trying to find out. It turns out there's a lot of playground equipment where people are just like, what is this? And then a lot of the answers just end up being, you know, either it's like, oh, it's just really like sort of specifics. Oh no, there's three answers. One is like this very specific way you're meant to play with it, and it just wasn't fun because, you know, they over designed its safety components. Two is it's an accessibility playground equipment item, which, you know, allows a greater range of people to be able to interact with it, which is awesome and genuinely something I've never actually really considered all that often. And the third one is it's an abstract shape, just to, you know, because kids have good imaginations. They'll just think of something and they'll just probably have fun with it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Which is, you know, fair enough. And I think that's probably what this playground equipment falls into, because well, oh, okay, it's probably actually, it probably has a very specific like way you're meant to use it, and it just like is very difficult to use, or you're meant to actually be a child when you use it, because, you know, I think having a smaller center of mass and being able to actually get underneath a sort of like the pivot point, it's not called a pivot point because it's not a pivot, but I don't know, like the point of, I can't remember what you call them, but whatever. That thing is, it would probably mean it's actually a lot easier to use because you can actually balance on it properly. I don't think it's an accessibility playground equipment, this one, because, well, I mean, it could be. It could be, but I don't think it doesn't seem like it'd be very accessible. It's very difficult to use, I would think. Like, so maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And then I don't think it's really that abstract a piece of like equipment. Like, it's not quite abstract enough that you can use your imagination for like to come up with like loads of different things of what to do with it, because it's like quite sort of narrow the subset you got. But I don't know, maybe I'm not as creative as, you know, a child anymore, which is, I don't know, I guess that's kind of sad if you think about it. I kind of sad it's like sort of suggests that the childlike imagination sort of died somewhere along the way. But really, I mean, it sort of just brings me back to secondary school, where we had a thing where we just like basically what we had to do was like think out what things you could do with, like, I think they gave like us a razor or something, colloquial called a rubber in the UK, but I don't use that because that means something else in American slang. But they gave us that, and it was just like, think of all the things you can do with it, and then, you know, of course you do very basic things like erasing things, you can give it to someone, etc, etc. But then, you know, our group, we just went absolutely off a rails. I think one of them was like, we started like a cult. You can start a cult with your eraser, you can worship it, you can exchange it for goods, you can sell it on the black market. I don't know, we went very insane with like whatever suggestions we came up with, because we got kind of bored. It was during business week, where it was just like, oh, you're meant to, like, you know, hey, you know, you're a teenager, you're going to have to go into the real world at some point, learn how to get a job and all that sort of thing. So we're going to sort of try and extrapolate and simulate the process, except for we're going to oversimplify it and not actually give you many transferable skills for real world in that sort of situation. And plus 4 days is not really enough to 5 days is not really enough to teach you about exactly what goes on in the working world. But, you know, it still happens anyway. And plus, and I suppose it just goes to show that one of the lessons we had was like, oh, you know, why do you think it was so difficult to come up with a load of different like ideas about this sort of thing? Maybe you're not an ideas person. Or maybe you don't have as much imagination as you would have as a child. And it was like, okay, well, right then, I guess. So yeah, it's a mysterious playground equipment item. Who knows? I suppose at the end of the day, is if a child has fun playing with it and they don't get hurt, or if they don't get seriously hurt, I should say. And I think it's kind of inevitable when a child gets hurt at like a playground just by doing. Children, you know, you've been a child, you probably know as well. A lot of children tend to be the sort of like reckless machines who seem designed on intent of hurting themselves every opportunity, which is not the case. Obviously. I don't think kids go into it mindset being like, I'm going to grievously injure myself today, in more of a sense of like, they haven't quite learned what boundaries are. They're testing and pushing boundaries in a safe environment, so they know when they grow up what those sort of boundaries are. So that's basically the sort of conclusion I'm coming to about this playground equipment, and it's just difficult to use, and probably you need to be a child to use it properly. But I don't know, you kind of use it for whatever. Here I am, you know, is the word ascribing? Yeah, ascribing my own adult sort of preconceptions to this sort of thing, being like, oh, there must be a certain way you have to play with it. There must be a certain rule, a certain thing you have to do with this playground equipment. Otherwise, what's the point? Well, no, that's not the case. It's much more the case of do whatever you want. It's just for a bit of fun, to be honest. Anyway, I'm going to round this episode off here. So if you haven't been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares are greatly appreciated. Twitter, Discord down below. I hope we can see each other again. But for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.